Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
This is another problem. What I-PRAC do is we're solely a verification platform. We're not a booking platform. We don't market properties. We are purely the verification side of it.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
What's up, all my Slick Talkers? You are about to listen to the Vacation Rental Mastermind series. I have sat down with some of the biggest experts in the vacation rental space all over the globe, and we created a 10-episode series where we dive in from how to be a host, how to maximize your property, how to manage a property from big management companies, as well as technology and fraud protection for your guests and for yourself as a host and an owner/investor. So tune in every week for the next 10 weeks to enjoy the Vacation Rental Mastermind series on Slick Talk, and check out every single guest that's going to be on the show on all social media platforms. Hey guys, for anyone at all interested in vacation rentals and the crazy growth that we've been seeing over the last few years, you need to listen up. As the world's leading provider of short-term rental data and analytics, AirDNA tracks the daily performance of over 10 million listings on Airbnb and Vrbo in 80,000 global markets. Through a combination of machine learning algorithms and source data, AirDNA has revolutionized pricing, benchmarking, and investing in alternative accommodations. Whether you're a current host, property manager, real estate investor, or simply looking to get into the industry, AirDNA is the go-to resource for understanding and navigating short-term rental markets around the world. Most folks in the industry are already well aware of their tools, but if you haven't yet checked out MarketMinder, I can't recommend it enough. Subscribe to any city or neighborhood and you get access to interactive charts, a dynamic pricing tool showing high and low demand days, a thorough rundown on the competition, and much, much more. If you don't yet manage a property, you can type in any address in the world and see how much it would make as a short-term rental. Visit their website at airdna.co for more information. Again, that's airdna.co.
He's kind of like the Joe Rogan of the hospitality industry right now.
I'm absolutely great. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Will.
Of course. So Chris, let's kind of dive right into the meat of the.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is your origin? How did you kind of get into the industry, and who's Chris?
Right. Okay. Good question. Well, basically, originally I'm from England, north of England, a place called Durham. But in 2000, so close to like 20 years ago, I moved down to the south of France, in Cannes, where we set up a small rental agency operating in Cannes, managing properties and offering rentals to travelers and corporate guests who visited the Cannes festivals. That was where we started, which I manage that still today. So that's really where I came from and how I got involved in the industry of short-term rentals. So it's quite a while since I've been in the industry, so coming up 20 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So with that company, kind of tell us a little bit about it, what you guys do with AES, correct?
Yes, AES. It's AES Events Group. It stands for Accommodation Event Specialists. So what we do is we manage properties for private owners, and we rent them to corporate clients. So some of our clients we work with are like Microsoft, Google, Twitter, Spotify, Fox, Disney. So our main job is to provide corporate accommodation in Cannes. So that's what we do, and from the accommodation side, but we also have an event management side. So we have large event spaces where we, offer event management. So where people can do cocktails, that type of thing for events and have meetings. So we do accommodation and events.
Definitely. Awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you've been doing that for quite a while. And then let's talk about I-PRAC a little bit. What does I-PRAC stand for? And kind of maybe give us a little backstory on what that entailed into the creation for you as a...
Yeah, sure. Well, I-PRAC itself stands for International Property Rental Approval Certification. So basically what happened, so the launch of I-PRAC came back in 2014. As an industry professional operating in Cannes, I was starting to see some changes in the industry where fraud was starting to appear. But one of the main problems was in 2014, we were contacted by a family who'd been stranded in Cannes and had been fallen victim to a scam that cost them £15,000. So, I mean, that's close to like $20,000, 18,000 euros. So basically they were stranded and they contacted our agency, and when we got to meet them, I kind of investigated slightly and understood what they had gone through. And it was at that point I realized that fraud was just a bigger problem than everybody expected it. So rather than just talk about it, and, I thought, I felt it was my duty to try to come up with a platform that could prevent it, and allow travelers and consumers to be able to know who they're booking with. And I think that's very, very important in today's industry of consumers, basically, but short-term rentals, because people are booking, properties all over the world, sending money to different countries. And I think trust and confidence, if you don't have that in today's world, then, there's problems that are going to arise. So that's what happened. And that's how we launched I-PRAC. So it took 2 years to kind of develop the platform from seed, because we had to understand how we could do it as a platform, how it could benefit travelers and owners and agents. And that's how it kind of came about. So we actually launched in 2016.
Okay. Officially in 2016. Very nice.
Yeah. So we've been going 3 years, and we're called, we're kind of disrupting the industry but in a good way, because I think before, a lot of consumers didn't realize that really fraud existed. So they were putting a lot of trust in the industry.
Yeah.
A little bit like a lottery, because you just, even though there's like 80% of the operators out there around the globe, let's say 80% of them are legitimate. They have no intention of scamming somebody, but there's 20% of these people who have got the intentions to commit fraud. And I think that's the key, to try to identify who's legitimate and who's not.
Well, and it's 20% is a little uncomfortable percentage. If that was like, if we were going off of base actual numbers, 20% is way too much. And
yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and the thing is, it's a figure that can't really be pinpointed as such, because I mean, there's terms of people talking about how many, we get asked the question, how many properties do you think on Airbnb are fraudulent? We say, well, we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know. I mean, this is the thing, because there's no verification process to arrive on a listing for Airbnb. You can get listed on Airbnb quite quickly. I mean, they have their payment procedures that people have to follow to avoid fraud, but they're not really reliable in terms of for the property owner or the agent, because they have to wait till the guest arrives to be paid, which doesn't really help anybody who's got a property investment. I mean, getting a booking in January and have to wait till August to get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody who's got like monthly payments to make on that investment property.
Well, and kind of like what you and I talked on the phone when we first linked up for this episode, is, the difference between the hotel industry. We have so much trust when we book a hotel, right? Because it's a known property. It's, got hundreds of rooms, if not, maybe thousands or whatever. It's a known spot. It's got, all the basic stuff. We've been using hotels for a long time. Now the vacation rental industry has just taken off so much in the recent years that, like you said, almost anybody could put a property or an apartment or a condo or anything on there and then use it as a listing. And kind of like, I love what you said earlier, which was, the guest experience doesn't start when they walk up to the property or walk through the doors. It's when they're booking. And
yeah, absolutely.
And when I-PRAC, when people see that they are booking a property that is certified, that is, credible, and has the backing of a verification, there's a lot more trust, like you said, that goes into it. And I think one big thing, when me and Matt Landau were talking on the first episode of this series, we were talking about this is a huge responsibility. You are literally taking people are spending their whole year working. Most guests that travel work their whole year to save up money for a week's vacation with their family or friends or whatever, and they're putting a lot of trust and a lot of time, and it's a big responsibility to take on. And I love what you were saying. The guest experience doesn't start when they walk through the door. It's when they really are booking your site or your property or doing whatever. That.
Well, the thing, the last let's say the last 12 months, a lot of the booking platforms and the industry have been using the buzzword experience. It's kind of like, let's just, and even now with Airbnb, you don't just book a property, you can actually book the experience with the property, and, you can do certain things. But I mean, a lot of the anticipation of when you book a private rental is there's a lot of anxiety involved. I mean, we've spoken to people who have that, who have booked properties, and we ask them the question, how do you feel about booking a private rental? Well, we do it because it's cost affordable, because we're a family of 4 or a family of 5, so a large apartment or a villa suits our budget. And and I think that's something that people are prepared to do. But at the same time, they've got a lot of reserve because they just don't know what's going to happen when they arrive.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key factor. So if you can give somebody the trust and confidence that when they pay, that everything's going to be okay, then that increases the experience for the guest by saying, yeah, but we've booked through I-PRAC or another verification system that we know that this property has been approved. And when you say approved, that comes on to another point, because there's a lot of people out there saying, well, I can approve a property, but then you kind of say, well, to what length?
Yeah.
What do you do to approve a property? Because this is another problem. I mean, what I-PRAC do is we solely are a verification platform. We're not a booking platform. We don't market properties. We are purely the verification side of it. So I think the depth that we go into, which we can talk about a little bit later, is the important factor. There's a lot of talk at the minute about Airbnb saying, coming out and saying that they're going to register or verify 7 million listings by December 2020. Well, that's a brave statement, and I'm quite happy to say it's a brave statement, because it's just, you ask them why. Well, not why, but what are you going to use to approve these people? Because it's like we said prior to going online, what we say at I-PRAC is you can only be approved if you want to be approved.
Yes.
Because you can only prove people on the data that you have. That's the key.
Yeah.
Data is everything. So at I-PRAC, we need to get your proof of ownership documents, copy of your bank, a lot of different things that come into the factor of what you use to approve somebody. It's an in-depth process, and not many people have the technology or the time to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the industry's falling.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with like, there's such a rise in technology in the industry as a whole, hotels, restaurants, vacation rentals, all that stuff. There's such a rise in tech, but this is kind of
Yeah.
going to lead into what you and I are talking about. I'm kind of curious what went into forming I-PRAC. Obviously, tech and other aspects, but tell me about the intense time and the thinking and the whole way to ensure that the process and the very like this is a lot of stuff that I think people think about maybe, but it's not like something that is a conversation, I guess. If we think about verifying and making, like, when I book an Airbnb or a vacation rental, obviously I'm kind of thinking, okay, like this is a legit site, so it should be good, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not thinking of all the steps that has to go, the owner or the host or manager or agency have to go through. And you guys did, you took that into a conversation. And I'm just kind of curious what all went in behind that into forming this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, when we decided that we were going to build this platform, we actually had, there was a lot of hours, man hours, just thinking about planning it, how it would work from a consumer point of view, how it would work from a agency and owner point of view, and how people could use it. Because, some of these travelers are young, old, some people don't always know how to use verification, to understand what does it mean. So we had to create a logo that people could associate trust with. That was the key. That was our we had to start with that and then build the whole platform around that. So we had a lot of planning, but what we kind of found was the key factor was that a lot of industries out there, like associations who offer a logo of trust, as we say, can be quite easily copied and put onto fake websites. Okay, in the UK, there's a company called ABTA, and ABTA's logo is used pretty much on 90% of fraudulent websites.
Really?
Yeah, because you can paste and copy the logo, put it in the bottom left of a fraudulent, and say that we're ABTA member or ABTA approved. And a lot of people look at that from a visual and think, okay. So the fraudulent operators have created that logo of trust, even though that logo's not used on a legitimate site. So if you went onto the ABTA official website, you would not find that company. But so that was a big challenge for us. And we kind of thought, we can't have the I-PRAC logo being able to be just put anywhere, because otherwise it loses its credibility.
Definitely.
So we had to speak with a technology company, which we found in the UK in London. And they came up with a technology, which we invested a lot of money in, which basically created a membership application process. Every I-PRAC logo is unique. So it's created with your unique ID.
Okay.
So every I-PRAC logo you see is different because it has the member's unique ID in the logo. So that was a massive challenge. You can imagine the technology behind that was just kind of, when you're approving thousands of members, you've got to try to get that, the technology to kind of relevant a new member all of the time with a new unique ID number that's linked to their I-PRAC profile.
Definitely, yeah.
So there was a lot of technology that came behind that, but that was where we kind of started. And the rest of it came from, what information would we need to really prove that you are who you say you are? And it's not difficult. You just got to provide the information. So what phone number do you use to communicate with your guests? We want that. We want to verify that. Okay. And place that number on your verification profile. We want to know what email you're using to communicate with your potential guests. And we want to put that as an approved email on your verification profile. We want to know the bank details that you accept your rental incomes on. We want to verify that. And all of these things have technology behind it for us to be able to verify that bank that phone number, that email is registered to that person, for example. And then, yeah, and then also we have things like the proof of ownership. If you're a private owner, then obviously you own the property. So you have to prove that, because that's another problem in the industry. There's people who are renting properties that are not licensed to be rented. Either they're renting it long term and subletting it, which is illegal in many under many laws.
Yeah.
So you've got to prove that you own the property. That's a big, of course, if you own it, then you're not really interested in scamming people.
Definitely.
So that was a document so we went to go through this list of all of the documents that we could ask for that could cut off any possibility of that person being a fraud. So, I mean, at the minute, we're probably at there's about 16 supporting documents that we would request for a private owner.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we've obviously got the training of the approval managers, who then use the supporting documents alongside the application form to be able to put all that together before the actual person is approved. So there's a lot of technology behind the scenes, and that's why it took so long. That's why it took 2 years of bringing it to market on a test site and getting it used by consumers and test agents to see where the holes were.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then so it took about 2 years from idea to getting the site to where it was. But one of the funny things was, because we actually had I'm not going to mention any names of who we used as a developer, but we went through a developer for like about 9 months who brought the site to market, and we just didn't like it. I just knew straight away it wasn't the design, it wasn't the feel. So that was a big investment that we just had to wipe off, because we couldn't bring that to market. We couldn't make that live. So then we had to find a new developer to work with the technology.
Yeah.
And that's where we are today, with the new developer, who's fantastic. I mean, our site today is as a credit to what we do.
Yeah. I think with, you said it took a long time, and I think anything good, especially when you're going to become a disruptor in a good way in the industry, I think it takes a long time anyways. Like, it should take a long time, because that just goes to show that what you guys are doing is beneficial, and it's important. It's a really important thing. And for the listener and audience base, a lot of them, are in the hotel hospitality sector, but then, with vacation rental, I think this can be applied anywhere. This is not just a short-term rental thing. Is that we need to really think about, kind of like what we just said in the beginning, is this is really the guest starting point of experience. They're trusting a lot of time and effort, and again, money, into booking a stay, whether it's a hotel, Airbnb, VRBO, private, contracted site. This is something that we need to really think about, because, like you said, that family.
Absolutely.
I couldn't imagine being in that position where that family just lost $20,000 or 15 pounds or 15,000 pounds, and you had like that. To me, would have just been.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
I saw the. You can imagine the emotions that were going on. I mean, this husband and wife were sat in my office with their 3 children.
Yeah.
The 3 children didn't know what was going on. So they just thinking, the husband is blaming the wife because she booked it. She's blaming him because he didn't help her. And they're just, it's emotion. It's an emotional time. They're just, they've got 7 or 8 suitcases, 3 children, lost 15,000 pounds, nowhere to stay, and stranded in a country they don't speak the language.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. So this was the kind of, you can read stories online. Oh God, that sounds terrible. But when you actually see it firsthand, it touched me. It's kind of, I've got 3 children myself.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought to myself, this is the industry that I care about. It's the industry that's provided me with a wonderful lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I need to protect it. I need to offer consumers the opportunity to book through legitimate owners and rental agents, but also allow legitimate professional owners and legitimate professional agents to show their credibility. We've gone through a robust process. We are legitimate. You can trust us. Because one of the biggest things in trust is, what a lot of people don't realize, is that an owner can tell everybody, you can trust me, you can trust me, you can trust me, but nobody will believe it.
Yeah, you have to choose.
You know?
You have to choose to be verified. You have to choose to show that trust. Like,
Yeah, because there's information that you have to give, like your passport, like your bank details, your email, your utility bills, so many different aspects that come into it. So you have to give that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't give it, you can't be verified. That's why I was saying to a lot of people around regarding the Airbnb saga, says there's no way they can verify correctly them 7 million listings because they're not going to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm. It's just going to
You
be.
You can't verify somebody using AI and reviewing the last 10 reviews.
Yeah.
That doesn't verify a property owner is legitimate.
Agreed.
So again, we have to look as an industry how we can protect consumers, but also help legitimate operators thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what our mission was at I-PRAC, to help both. And that was one of the challenging areas of how we developed the platform, is how can it work for consumers, but also operators. So that's what we do today. So we're very proud of it.
Well, you should be. That's something.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is the industry we love. This is, provided, such a nice, comfortable lifestyle, but also, we get to meet and connect with people like you and I. I'm in Seaside, Oregon, and you're in Caen, France. How crazy is that this one mutual thing of passion and love has brought us together? So imagine,
love it.
This is just a scratching of the surface, the people that we get to encounter and interact with on a day-to-day basis, like guests and other managers and, people in the industry. This is such a huge thing. And like I said, I think a lot of us think about it, but we don't think about the extent of the conversation and making it happen. This is very, I think it's not a new thing to verify, but it's a new thing to verify in such detail that people have to choose to be a part of.
Yeah, you can't just verify. I mean, if you look at a hotel, for instance, I mean, hotels, I mean, verification for legitimacy is one thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of legislation coming in to make sure that properties are covered in the right level of health and safety for consumer health and safety as well, because that's another industry problem. There's some of these properties out there listing on the booking platforms and things. They're just not fit for purpose. Mm-hmm. So that's another problem, but we have to do more as an industry, because I didn't realize that fraud was affecting the industry so much until 2014. So I'd been in the industry, maybe 14 years before I realized that it was actually affecting the industry, and I was just blind to it. It was only until 2014 when I looked at it and started investigating it that I just realized how our industry was being damaged by such fraudulent operators. And it's getting worse because of the growing, how fast the industry is growing.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? Fraudsters, they'll go where the money is. Mm-hmm. And they sleep very well at night, huh? When they take 20,000 euros off somebody. They don't lose a wink of sleep.
Yeah.
So this is why what we're doing is, what we want is more operators to believe that I-PRAC is required for them as an investment, but also to get more education out there into the industry for consumers to let them know just how sophisticated fraudsters can be. Because, Booking.com, Airbnb, there's horror stories that come from them. I know that the platforms isn't their job to verify, but they didn't think of this 10 years ago. This is the problem.
Definitely.
So, they didn't think that this was going to be a problem today. And I think in general, a lot of them are trying to brush it under the carpet. Say, it's not big enough. The problem isn't big enough to solve. But stats, but listen to this one. Stats state that 7 out of 10 victims to rental fraud don't report it.
Really?
Yeah.
7 out of 10?
7 out of 10 will not report it due to embarrassment, thinking that nothing will get done about it, put it down to a bad experience, don't know where to report it to.
Wow.
They just put it, so a lot of it's not even getting to like mainstream media. Some do, but the size of the problem is not out there as in the market, because it's not always reported and it's brushed under the carpet.
Wow.
And that's a problem for me.
Yeah, that's huge.
As the CEO of I-PRAC, that's a big problem for me. I want booking platforms to stand up and say, you know what, we acknowledge the problem. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
You can't blame booking platforms, but they're in a very, powerful position to be able to make change.
Well, we're all in the hospitality industry. So my thing is, if you are in this sector, whether you're a software company, a booking platform, whatever you are, I think we all have a responsibility to take care of the guests. And that's why we get into what we do. We're all some point or aspect, I-PRAC was designed to take care of the guest. Slick Talk is designed to take care of, the people in the industry, to educate and to ensure the passion. And, and then there's booking.com that's for the guest and getting them the best property that they can book. And, there's all these things, right, that are supposed to,
absolutely
the bottom line, take care of the guests. And sometimes I feel like, not we as you and I, but maybe companies that are bigger and been around a little bit longer forget about that. And that's the point where
they've got a different I think they've got a different motivation. I mean, if you go and ask senior management of a booking platform what their priorities are for 2020, it won't be fraud.
Yeah.
It's more listings and more night bookings of nights, and more reviews. Because that's where their business model is generated by. I mean, look, Airbnb are doing this, I believe, and I stand by what I believe, is that when you come out and say that you're going to verify 7 million listings, but you're not highlighting exactly how you're going to do it, it's a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
Prior to an IPO. I mean, it's not rocket science to understand, because you don't need to be a rocket scientist or an industry expert to know that you cannot verify a property owner for consumer satisfaction and protection through the way they plan to do it.
Agreed.
Impossible. So I'm not saying it's their fault, and it's, but they can do more. They can, listen, 2018, Brian Chesky from Airbnb mentioned something about their privacy policy. We're going to change it, because some people's accounts were being hacked, but 6 months down the line, nothing had been really done properly. And everybody had forgot about it, so it always comes when there's an industry, a media outcry of something like, I mean, it was such a tragic operation of the shooting in the US,
at
an Airbnb property. Tragic, but that could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not because of Airbnb. Do you know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're cancelling party houses. But is that the solution? I don't know if that's the solution. But what it comes in, there's a media problem in the industry, and all of a sudden Airbnb want to attack it in a certain way, and they're very quick to come out. Listen, I was speaking to a guy who works at Airbnb, not at the level that they are, but and he's kind of saying, well, we just want to do the best we can to protect the guests. And I said, well, I don't doubt that for 1 minute. But before you come out and say that, you need to investigate thoroughly how you're going to do it effectively.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it comes down to the thing of, actions speak louder than words. And one of my biggest, my biggest thing from the hotel side is that I always say, actions speak louder than manager meetings. We can be in meetings all we want, but until we start actually doing the things that we've discussed, like investigating and finding out the root of certain things, like maybe training issues or whatever, we need to start then after investigating, start pulling triggers. We need to start actually, making decisions.
Exactly.
Just keep
Yeah.
talking about it in the next week and the next week and the next week, but nothing's gotten done. And now you have 3 or 4 months later down the line, and your people are looking at you, looking for a
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah. Well, listen, everybody's going to be looking at what that situation is in December 2020.
Yeah.
Because Brian Chesky came out, publicly said, we're going to verify 7 million listings by December. Now, that's a bit, like I've said previously, that's a brave statement. And it's going to fall on deaf ears because I believe that that's not going to happen correctly. And after a year of verifying people, so how have you done it? And who's verified and who's not? And how are you doing it at source? Because you've got to stop people listing. That's the whole point. You don't verify somebody after they've listed.
Yes.
You know, you have to go, if you want to do it properly, you have to go back to the start.
Yep, 100%.
You have to go back to the start and say, listen, they have to go out there and choose a company who is solely on verification, all of the technology all in place, get advice from them, build your own with advice from them or whatever, but then go back and say, listen, in 2 years, we're going to transform all of the properties through this company. So your listing will be took down, you pass through this company to be verified, and then you'll be relisted.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a lot of work, but I think in order to ensure, the guest trust.
It's the only way.
And
the only way.
Yeah, like management companies, like, guests aren't the only ones that get frauded. There's tons of, parties, like you said, party houses and people that will book and go destroy, the property by doing whatever, and so there's all sorts of things. And like you said, the only way to prevent it is to take it back from the start.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I believe, and like a lot of people go, God, that would cost us millions. Well, so be it.
Yeah.
Because nobody in your business anticipated this as a problem at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Verification. Did you not think that this would come back to bite you in the behind? Because now it is, and a lot of these booking platforms don't know how to deal with the problem.
Agreed.
Because it's like, okay, I mean, we spoke to somebody about 2 months ago, and and we investigated it, and it's a fraud. They were a fraudulent operator working out of Spain, offering villa rentals in Spain, and they actually bought a legitimate company for €1. Then they listed all of their fake properties on this website, registered to this company that they bought for €1.
Mm-hmm.
Then they gave that 100 fake properties on this company website, and then they gave this company, because the company was legitimate. Okay, if you looked at the companies, they're legitimate, so obviously the properties are. But they didn't have any company background. They just bought the company for €1. That company was then given to a channel manager, and the channel manager distributed 1,500 fraudulent properties around so many booking platforms.
Wow.
And what happens, what the fraudsters are doing there, is they're trying to just throw as many properties out there as they can to create as many inquiries, and then they go to work on their, offering 50% discount to come off platform, offer them, a 1 week free if they book and pay directly, and this is what they do. They just try to get as many inquiries, and maybe they'll scam 10. But you can scam 10 people, you can earn €100,000 out of that.
Yeah. Wow.
And no owners to pay. That's €100,000 profit to invest in more techniques to scam more people. But these websites look very, very kosher. That's the problem. They're investing money in websites, the fraudsters. They're not just listing 1 or 2 properties. They're operating like businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Having boardroom meetings, having a CEO, having a marketing manager, having a psychologist who does the listings.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy the sophistication that they go into. But this is the reality. And this is what we have to educate people on. I mean, we've got articles on the I-PRAC website all about this to try to educate people. And there's one article which outlines the sophistication of fraudsters. And it's unbelievable what they can go to, the lengths.
And
you wouldn't believe it.
No, I just hearing that, like they have a CEO, they have a marketing director, they have a psychologist.
Yeah,
That's
of course
insane.
they do. Yeah. I mean, they do. They have meetings of how they're going to do it. Because if you go online today and put rental fraud, protect you from rental fraud, you will see all of the tips of what people say. Oh, be careful, it might be too good to be true. Or look out for this. Look, fraudsters are reading all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going, all right, okay, so the industry knows that we're doing this, so let's make that better. Let's make sure that we write better descriptions. Let's make sure our photos are better. Let's make sure that we do this better. So they're reading the industry articles to get themselves more compliant to the industry, to be able to, create a better fake listing. And this is the frightening part, where what we do at I-PRAC, we say, look, you cannot pass the I-PRAC test approval if you're a fraudster. There's too much that goes into it.
Yeah, 100%.
You won't pass. So that's why it's important that you don't just look at a quality website and go, oh, look at this beautiful website. This can't be a fraud. Can't be. Yeah, it can. And this is what's causing, there was a famous footballer in Europe got scammed about 3 months ago, 50,000 euros.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it's crazy.
Yeah. It blows my mind. So for the listeners that are just listening to all this stuff, like this is something I think the series is designed for people in the industry, but if you're not in the industry and you're a booker or a guest, this is some stuff that I think is really important. And so for Chris, on your guys' website, you guys have a partner page, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you guys have a partner page where you have people that are trusted into be legitimate platforms or softwares or companies in there. And then as well for I-PRAC, can you tell us about the just so that way we give guests, listeners more information about what you guys do.
What in terms of our partners?
Your partners, but also then like the ID number and what happens.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So basically, if you see a I-PRAC logo, normally what would happen is if you're a consumer and you come across a property that you want to book, 9 times out of 10, maybe probably the I-PRAC, they're not I-PRAC approved as of yet, because we're growing and it's such a big industry.
Yeah.
But if you come across a consumer who says I'm I-PRAC approved, he will then provide you with their ID number. Okay, and with that ID number, you can then go onto the I-PRAC website, and there's a special search engine on the website where you type that ID number in. And once you click search, it brings up the I-PRAC profile of that particular member. And the I-PRAC profile covers all of the details we've spent 2 to 3 weeks verifying. So if you see it on the profile, so like the telephone number, the email, the bank account, we don't display the whole bank account. We only display the last 5 digits. But if if an owner's asking you to send $5,000 to this bank account, you can say, well, are the last 5 digits on the I-PRAC profile the same as the one they're asking? Okay, yes, it's correct. Okay, it's good.
Yeah.
Also, the phone number. Are they communicating through the correct phone numbers that are registered on the I-PRAC website? Are they communicating through the correct emails that are registered on the I-PRAC website? Is the property address the same that's listed on the I-PRAC website? Is the owner? There's a lot of details that you can use to verify your accommodation provider. And then once you've done that and you book with that property owner, you can then register your booking on the I-PRAC website, and that's what guarantees your payment. Because you type in the I-PRAC member's name and ID number and the dates that you've booked, the price that you've paid, and you register that. And I-PRAC get a copy, the owner gets a copy, and the consumer gets a copy. So that booking is registered in the I-PRAC system. So if you arrive at that property, and we know that's not going to happen, but if it isn't there or it's fraudulent, then you're guaranteed that payment to be sent back to you.
Wow.
But people, it's a guarantee. It's 100% guarantee.
Yeah, that's a big order.
Yeah, and I think that's what people need. Mm-hmm. Not only us saying you can book, don't worry about it, but also when you get there,
there's accountability.
What we do is, I mean, listen, we don't approve anybody who hasn't passed our process. Yeah. So we've got 100% confidence that whoever we approve is not going to be a fraudulent operator, and that means all the consumers who book through I-PRAC members are free to pay them directly. They're free to enjoy the period of time up to the booking, which is what we were speaking about earlier about guest experience. Mm-hmm. I just think it's the whole process, but I think people need to understand what they need to do. There's no longer this click, book, pay, and hope everything goes well. That's got to stop. People have got to take a little bit more time to understand how to protect themselves.
I 100% agree. In all aspects, guests, management, assets, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're working with a couple of big property management companies here in Europe, and they're trying to understand how they can integrate it into their systems. And it is, I mean, we didn't believe at I-PRAC that we would have to do that. We thought that we would just be a verification platform. People would come and get verified. We would give them their display of their logo, and off they would go and show people that they're credible. Mm-hmm. But actually now we're getting a lot of the big property management companies and tech companies, they want to get more involved in how I-PRAC can be integrated into their systems. Now, this is a lot more complicated than it sounds. So, I mean, it's not as easy as what but we would like to investigate how we can do it, because our whole mission is just to make the industry safe and let legitimate operators thrive. That's the key.
And I think that's how a lot of things start is, you have one idea, right? Like I formed Slick Talk, this podcast as one thing,
which is fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I designed it as one thing that I didn't think would become to where it's at today. I didn't think I'd be doing a series on vacation rentals and the mastermind behind it. And, so it's just, I think that's when you have something that's good and legitimate, because now your sole purpose and mission, which is great and amazing, has now just expanded into so many other areas that it's actually going to impact more than you could ever imagine, I think.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, we got approached by Google, okay? Oh. I mean, who basically send people all around the world.
Yeah.
Like traveling, So if you think about Google UK, they've got a travel desk, okay? So they've got a person or a team who's responsible for booking accommodation for their employees.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you do. You don't book it yourself. You go to your travel desk. You say, I've got to get to Miami for a week. I'm going to this conference. Sort it out. Mm-hmm. The travel desk will then look around. And they've got partners and different things. But when we said to Google, well, why don't we approve all of your accommodation partners prior to you booking with them? And they've come back and said, listen, we only use hotels really right now because that's where the trust is. Yeah. And I said, yeah, but you're losing a lot of money by paying high hotel fees when you could have a lower cost in quality apartments. And they said, yeah, but we just don't trust apartments, really. Mm-hmm. So, but if they're I-PRAC approved, you can. Mm-hmm. So what Google are looking at doing is signing an agreement with our travel desk service, which we never thought we would open, but that's come now, and all of a sudden now we've got companies who want to use I-PRAC services to protect them from booking when they're booking private accommodation. If it's I-PRAC approved, they can book it because they've got their payment guarantee and they know that their guests are going to be, when they arrive, there's going to be no problem.
Yeah.
So we're solving a huge problem for large corporations just through creating trust and confidence. And it's fantastic what we're doing in that term. But as we get bigger, more companies are coming on board. So there's just so much scope for what we're doing at I-PRAC, because of what we do is all about trust and confidence and making the industry better. And I think if anybody's mission is to make an industry better, then you're going to succeed.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
You know? Yeah.
It's such a, like you said, it's such a growing industry, but the one thing that we've noticed with, anybody that's a host or in the industry that starts out, if they're not in it for the right reasons, they usually don't last long. And that's a good,
Yeah, exactly.
We want everyone to love people, to, love what they do and be passionate and be good at it. But if you don't like people and you don't have the right reasons and you're not good at it, usually you won't last in order to, to keep doing what we do as professionals. And so I think, like you said, it's just
absolutely
the mission's right and you have no choice but to succeed.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're just trying to do. And I think the industry's got a long way to go, but it's an exciting industry. But I just think we just need a little bit more direction in protecting consumers and giving legitimate operators a space for them to kind of say, look, at all of the legitimate people are over here.
Yeah, especially
if you can do that, the fraudsters are going to go, well, how can we get over there? And they can't.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, what fraudsters then tend to do when the door is closed on their operation is they move to another one.
Mm-hmm.
But today, there's still far too much money in it for fraudsters because the door's not closed.
Yeah.
And I can't do that on my own with I-PRAC, that's for sure. Yeah. We need a lot more larger companies supporting I-PRAC, our mission, to be able to achieve that. And I think that's what we're trying to do, get people on board, or like with our ambassador program, is to get people all over the world talking about the benefits of I-PRAC, purely to educate the industry.
100%. I think that's, such an important thing right now. And I think that's a little bit of why I created the series as well, is, we're seeking, it's not, the podcast is no longer just about conversation. It's about education and, and getting people informed. Like this is something I didn't know about, 3 months ago. And so this is just, a big way of, everyone, being educated and starting to, get to know what's going on. And if we don't talk about it, then who's going to know?
Well, this is it. Yeah. I mean, look, we live, eat, breathe rental fraud right now.
Yeah.
And it's, so it's our job to do that so we can bring, that information to the industry. I don't expect everybody else to put in the hours that we're doing.
Yeah.
But what I would like is for people to recognize the work that we are doing to support what we're doing and not to brush it under the carpet. I think that's kind of our main issue, because it's like kind of trying to swim against the waves sometimes, because the industry's going so quick. Yeah. And we're just knocking on a few doors as we go along. But, we're getting close to just under 35,000 members over 28 countries. Wow. But that sounds a lot to when you speak to somebody from a company that was only started 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's nothing. It's not even a dint into the size of the industry and how many properties there are on the market. So we've done so much good work, but we've just got so far to go.
Yes, agreed. But that is a good accomplishment. And this is not the last time any of the listeners will be hearing about I-PRAC on the podcast, because we are going to educate people through this platform as well. And I'm so excited to keep working with you after this.
Well, that's why we want to support, the podcast, because I think what you're doing, Will, is just, it's vital because of the style, like we discussed earlier, the style of your podcast is about education. And I think that's the kind of podcast we want to align ourselves with so that we can spread the right message to educate. And I just hope that some of the listeners today can walk away from this podcast and think, wow, I didn't even realize that could have been the case.
100%.
And if we can, and if we can educate people in that way, then it just makes our job, we're doing our job, because they'll tell 2-3 people and so on and so on. And it just makes people more aware of the problem.
Agreed. And so for anybody listening, go to I-PRAC.com, correct?
That's right, yeah.
All right, perfect. And then I'll also have all the links on my site and on this podcast as well. Chris, do you have anything that you want to just let the listeners be like the last note that they hear from this episode?
Well, thank you everybody for the time, really. If they've been listening from the start to finish, I'm sure it's a long one, but thank you. And thank you to you, Will. for taking the time out to broadcast this, because it means a lot. And let's hope that we can continue the good work and make this industry safer for consumers and let legitimate operators thrive.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.